Mud splattered across her face before anyone could stop it. A burst of cruel laughter echoed from the group of young soldiers, raw, untempered recruits, who had been idle too long in the rain. Slicked yard. One of them, a tall man with arrogance painted across his grin, had scooped a handful of wet dirt and hurled it without thought, just to make his friends laugh. The laughter died as quickly as it had begun. The woman he'd struck did not shout. She did not flinch. She simply stood still, her posture unwavering, her uniform spotless beneath the dripping mud. Her gaze lifted calm, unhurried, and for the briefest second, something in her eyes made the air tighten. She wiped the mud away with the back of her glove, slow and deliberate. Around them, silence crept in like a living thing. They didn't know who she was. Rain whispered against the concrete as the soldiers shifted uncomfortably, sensing something wrong but unable to name it. The yard, moments ago filled with noise and easy laughter, had turned heavy with unease. The woman's rank badge was hidden beneath her coat, the storm having darkened the insignia to near invisibility. To them, she looked like any other officer, middle-aged, perhaps too quiet, perhaps too stern. Nothing remarkable, nothing worth noticing, but to those who knew her, she was everything the uniform stood for. Her name was Admiral Saira Mendez, the youngest admiral in her nation's history, a combat strategist whose decisions had saved thousands. She had led men and women through burning deserts and frozen silence, had watched comrades fall and enemies surrender. Her hands bore faint scars, reminders of days when her command meant the difference between life and death. Yet she had never once raised her voice for respect. She had earned it in silence. Today, she had come to this base unannounced, a quiet inspection, a habit she'd kept to understand her people from the ground up. She preferred to see how soldiers behaved when they didn't know they were being watched. And now she had seen. The young soldier, still half smiling, muttered something about it being a joke. He reached for his cap awkwardly, realizing her silence was not weakness but judgment. Rain traced down the contours of her face, washing away the last trace of mud. Her eyes, dark and steady, held him until his smirk collapsed under their weight. No one dared move. The other recruits stared at their boots, their laughter having curdled into shame. Somewhere in the distance, the low hum of a military truck faded, leaving only the sound of rain. A senior officer approached, called to attention by the uneasy quiet. The moment he saw her face, his expression drained of color. His salute snapped through the air, sharp as a gunshot. Every soldier in the yard froze, their minds catching up too late to what their eyes were seeing. The young man's breath caught. The woman, his victim, was not a visiting clerk, not a passing officer. She was their new admiral. She returned the salute slowly, her gaze unwavering. The rain had turned from drizzle to downpour now, flattening the world into a haze of gray. She spoke at last, her voice calm and steady, carrying easily through the storm. "Discipline," she said softly, "is not how you act when you're being watched. It's how you treat those you think are beneath you." Her words struck harder than any punishment could. She turned her back on them, not out of disdain, but out of faith that they would feel the weight of their own actions far longer than any reprimand. Silence followed her steps across the yard. Later that day, the base was assembled in full formation. The rain had stopped, but the ground still carried the scent of wet earth. The same soldier stood at the front, his face pale, his posture rigid. When she entered, the entire formation snapped to attention. No one dared speak. She walked to the center, pausing where the mud still stained the ground. "Every soldier," she began, "is part of a chain that's only as strong as the respect within it. We fight for a nation that believes in dignity. Forget that, and no rank will save you." Her eyes met his just for a second, and he dropped his gaze, not from fear, but from understanding. Then she said something that would be repeated across barracks and training camps for years to come. "Power is never loud. It's the quiet that commands the room. The yard remained silent long after she left. Some said they saw the young soldier return alone that night, kneeling to scrub the last trace of mud from the ground. No order had been given, no apology demanded. He did it because the silence she left behind demanded it. By dawn, word had spread through every corner of the base. The woman with mud on her face had shown them what leadership truly looked like. Not pride, not fury, but grace under humiliation. And so, when she walked the parade line weeks later, the same men who had once laughed now stood with heads bowed in respect that words could not express. They say you can tell the strength of a leader not by how she commands obedience, but by how she teaches humanity. For Admiral Saira Mendez, respect was never taken. It was earned in silence. If this story moved you, share where you're watching from, and tell us, what does respect mean to you? Subscribe for more stories that honor those who lead not by shouting, but by standing tall in silence.